as for President Trump and his response over the weekend. He addressed a crowd at Mount Rushmore, fireworks celebration in South Dakota on Friday that raised a number of health concerns amid the growing number of coronavirus cases. About 7,500 people were expected to attend, and photos show a packed crowd in close quarters with very few wearing masks. According to local reporting there, health professionals in South Dakota are now concerned the lack of mitigation efforts at the event could cause the coronavirus to spread in communities surrounding Mount Rushmore and in communities where those attending live following the event. As for the president's 4th of July message to the country, 3.5 years after vowing to end what he called American carnage at his inaugural address, the president painted another dark picture of this country. In two speeches, one on Friday at Mount Rushmore, the other at the White House on Saturday, the president denounced what he called the left-wing cultural revolution. He also pushed back against the movement for racial justice, accusing his opponents of wanting to erase America's history, as he said, indoctrinate our children, and, quote, overthrow the American Revolution.
The radical ideology attacking our country advances under the banner of social justice. But in truth, it would demolish both justice and society. It would transform justice into an instrument of division and vengeance, and it would turn our free and inclusive society into a place of repression, domination, and exclusion. They want to silence us, but we will not be silenced. Those who seek to erase our heritage want Americans to forget our pride and our great dignity, so that we can no longer understand ourselves or America's destiny. In toppling the heroes of 1776, they seek to dissolve the bonds of love and loyalty that we feel for our country and that we feel for each other. Their goal is not a better America. Their goal is to end America. We will never allow an angry mob to tear down our statues, erase our history, indoctrinate our children, or trample on our freedoms. We will safeguard our values, traditions, customs, and beliefs. We will teach our children to cherish and adore their country so that they can build its future. Together we will fight for the American dream, and we will defend, protect, and preserve American way of life, which began in 1492 when Columbus discovered America.
That was President Trump on the South Lawn of the White House in that last speech you just heard there on Saturday. Jonathan Lemire, you cover this president very closely every single day. This appears to be his re-election message, that America is being overrun by angry mobs. There were brief references to the coronavirus and the public health crisis at the center of American life right now because of its health impacts and also its economic impacts. But it's clear where the president is headed here for re-election.
That's right, Willie. With bleak and at times almost apocalyptic language, the president definitely revisited his American carnage inaugural here. Only, as you say, only passing mentions to the crisis that has consumed this nation now for months. Instead, he leaned very hard into the culture wars, into sort of that base play, stoking racial resentment and grievance. And I think it can't be overstated what a departure these two speeches, Mount Rushmore one day and at the White House the next, are from what the usual message we hear from a president on the 4th of July, the most patriotic of holidays. There was no attempt here to unify the country. There was no bold statements of American greatness, of American unity. You're trying to bring the nation together, particularly now in a time of crisis where so many have died and suffered. Instead, it was just a divisive message. This was him as if he were delivering a speech at a campaign rally, not from the lawn of the White House. This was not a message to all Americans. This was a message to his base, and it shows in stark black and white, or maybe perhaps in this case red versus blue language, how he views the next 4 months of his term that will determine whether or not he gets another 4 years in office.
So, Michael Steele, let's talk about the political strategy of this, because you come from the Republican world and you've helped oversee a lot of campaigns as chair of the RNC. What exactly is he going for here? What is the strategy behind this? Because, again, he's plowing everything into a base that he's pretty well got locked up, if you look at his numbers, and has had locked up for about 5 years now. It doesn't appear from the outside anyway that there's any olive branch, that there's any extension of those who may be considering voting for him. It's just solidifying the people who he already has.
Well, it's us against them at this point. And the reality that the Trump campaign is facing is the us, which is the base support that you referred to, a lot of the Republicans on Capitol Hill that have sort of curried the president's favor in a number of areas. That is actually weakening some. The numbers are showing, both internal and external polling is showing that hard 95, 96% of the Republican base that's behind the president is now down around 84, 85%. There's been slippage. There has been some weakening of the reception of that message because guess what? That base is also now impacted by COVID-19, as we see across the country in those red states. And the president also is feeling the impact. His base is feeling the impact of the economy, which is not recovering at the pace, even though the great jobs numbers last week, are good to see. The reality of it is, businesses are opening, but the people aren't going out and shopping. They're not gathering to spend money the way they were a year ago. And then layer on top of that, Willie, the social unrest right now, the civic unrest, which is a good thing. This is a good, healthy conversation the country is just beginning to have. And you would think that would be something the president would step into. But that's not what his base wants to hear. That's not what they want to talk about. And so he's doubling down on those things that have motivated their anger, their frustration, and that us that he talks about in his Mount Rushmore speech. A lot of folks are scratching their heads and going, what do you mean by us? Aren't us all of us? Well, to Jonathan's point, no. It's those people who he feels are losing the grip that he's given them on some of these issues, some of these visceral issues, and he wants to get that back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.